you've heard annulus, annuloplasty so much here, and it seems everything is clear. It's like in the mitral valve, we believe annular dilatation is a problem and we have to do something and we can all go home. Let me simply utter a word of caution. I would like to go through two components, two thoughts. What is the evidence for annular dilatation leading to failure of aortic valve repair? And second, what is the evidence that annular reduction or stabilization improves repair durability? And I can tell you already, the answer is not as clear as you may believe. Let's first briefly discuss what is the annulus. And here we have a moving target. Anatomically, the annulus is this combined cusp insertion line. This is not the annulus. And functionally, we have a sinotubular junction. We have the aortoventricular junction, that is the transition between muscular tissue and aortic wall. And we have the basal ring, as described and defined by Bob Anderson. For simplicity reasons, I would like to refer to the green line, that is the basal ring, which is a virtual structure but very important. Let's first come to the evidence for annular dilatation. Let's go through a few apparently easy pieces of evidence. Aortic annulus in this study here from Brussels in patients who had severe or relevant recurrence of regurgitation post-repair was significantly higher. So the annulus is a problem. We also found the same, apparently, published in 2012, valve-preserving surgery, annular diameter was a problem. As you can see here, these patients had poor long-term durability. However, this is an example of a frequently misquoted publication. If you read the text, these patients with the large annuli were almost exclusively treated by reimplantation, and they also had the largest root diameters. And interestingly, there was no difference between remodeling and reimplantation. Long-term, little, if at all, remodeling was somewhat better. And cusp plication seemed to be protective of recurrence of aortic regurgitation. What happened? Keep in mind they had the largest root diameters. So these were the patients that had the largest reductions of intercommissural distance. So they had the highest propensity of induced prolapse by making the root smaller. And you also have to keep in mind, before 2004, we just used eyeballing, and we had no means of objectively assessing valve configuration. More evidence. The Brussels group showed very nicely that annular dilatation can recur after tricuspid aortic valve repair using Cabral stitches, and everything was better once they had done AI increased, and in valve-preserving surgery everything was much better. However, if you read the fine print of the paper, these were the patients who were operated for only aortic regurgitation. And in this group, there was a relevant proportion which was operated for aneurysm, and they had minor degrees of aortic regurgitation. So in effect, these two groups were not really comparable. We also, in another model, and this was actually an eye-opener to us, saw that annular dilatation could be a risk factor, and these were patients with isolated bicuspid valve repair. So no mixture of root versus valve. So these were all patients who had severe AR as the primary problem. Now, does the annulus play a role? This very nice computer simulation study is probably the best evidence that we currently have. In this study, these engineers from Tel Aviv progressively increased annulus size. And as you can see very nicely, the larger the annulus gets, the less coaptation height we have here. And actually, with annular dilatation alone, there appears a small leak here in the center. To put it into the terms of coaptation height and effective height, the terms that you've heard repeatedly in the last 2 hours, the larger the annulus, the lower effective and coaptation height. So annulus size does have an effect on valve configuration. On the other hand, the papers showing the clinical evidence that this is so clear are not really that clear. Let's come into the second part of this presentation. What is the evidence that annular reduction or stabilization improves repair durability? We can go back into the history of aortic valve repair. This is the first series of aortic valve repair from the 1950s, where at that time the surgeons from Boston did nothing but place an annuloplasty suture at the basal level. Nothing else was done on the aortic valve. At that time, no echocardiography was available, but at least by clinical assessment, it was an effective procedure. Unfortunately, not for a very long time. Is this study indication that stabilization of the annulus is superior? I showed you the slide before. Again, because here in the group with valve-preserving surgery, there was a mix of patients with primary aortic regurgitation and those with primary aneurysm. So it's very difficult to come up with definite conclusion. I would like to show you another study that was published last year. External ring annuloplasty makes everything much better. If you look carefully at the details, you can see here that both extra aortic ring and the introduction of effective height assessment were actually significantly associated with superior results. And it was not possible to distinguish these two effects because at approximately the same time, the surgeons changed from eyeballing to assessment and also introduced this ring concept. Again, we also explored the importance or the effect of annuloplasty, and this has been mentioned before. We published the first results, and actually we saw an effect that was to be expected if we take these computer simulation studies seriously. So whatever we did, whether it was isolated repair or valve-preserving surgery, with annuloplasty, the proportion of completely competent aortic valves was significantly improved, and this at discharge and also at 1 year post-operatively. In the patients who had isolated bicuspid repair, and this we published last year, we could actually see drastic improvement of durability using annuloplasty. So quite apparently, annuloplasty does have an effect on valve, not only on valve form, but also repair durability. And I would like to show you a very recent analysis, which is as yet unpublished. Dr. Matsushima from my team, from Kobe, and currently my team, is just working on the results. This is unicuspid repairs, where we could see after introducing annuloplasty for patients with a large annulus, we could significantly improve durability of the repair. Let me summarize. What is the evidence? Annular dilatation reduces coaptation height. It may cause central aortic regurgitation, and because it decreases coaptation height, it definitely increases regurgitation due to cusp pathology. In other terms, if we do an operation, this means that annular dilatation makes the repair result more sensitive to surgical inaccuracy. In other terms, if we do a perfect result, if we do a perfect repair, maybe the annuloplasty is not so important. Perfection, on the other hand, is very difficult to achieve. Annular dilatation contributes to the recurrence of aortic regurgitation after isolated and bicuspid and unicuspid repair, And the evidence that we have from the area of valve-preserving surgery is still somewhat foggy. Annular reduction definitely improves valve competence after valve-preserving surgery, and this is maybe also the reason why in many series, at least the early valve competence results after reimplantation are somewhat better than compared to remodeling without annuloplasty, and why annuloplasty there has a seemingly positive effect. We have not yet seen a positive effect on durability in valve-preserving surgery, but stabilization definitely improves the durability in bicuspid and unicuspid repair, and tricuspid we're still analyzing, and we will have to see the effect. Thank you for your attention.